For over a decade, Joy Boy existed as nothing more than a name carved into stone, a mysterious figure that was mentioned on a single poneglyph that Nico Robin read on Fishman Island. But as One Piece has progressed, we've come to learn that Joy Boy is one of the most pivotal figures within the history of the series. The Void Century, the ancient weapons, the One Piece itself, along with the world government's paranoid obsession with erasing history, it all traces back to this one man who lived 900 years ago. What makes Joy Boy so fascinating is that Oda has been building towards his reveal since the start of the story. Those silhouettes of Luffy dancing in front of bonfires in Skypiea, the Sun Pirates wearing their mark of liberation, the Shandians worshipping a sun god, all of these breadcrumbs were planted years before we even knew what they meant. Oda has known exactly where this story was heading, and Joy Boy was at the center of it. So in this video, I'll be doing a complete breakdown of everything that we know about Joy Boy, from his origins in the Great Kingdom, his powers, his relationships, his ultimate defeat, and the prophecy that connects him directly to Monkey D. Luffy. I'll be digging into every confirmed detail and piecing together the full picture of who this legendary figure actually was. Joy Boy was born 900 years ago at the very beginning of the Void Century into what historians call the Great Kingdom. This wasn't any ordinary nation, according to Vegapunk. The Great Kingdom possessed technological advancements so far beyond anything in the modern world that even Vegapunk himself, a man considered 500 years ahead of current science, he couldn't replicate their achievements. This civilization created power sources that don't exist anymore. They built giant robots like Emeth that still function after nearly a millennium, and developed weapons that were capable of reshaping the entire planet. The Great Kingdom's name has never been revealed, and Professor Clover was shot dead by the world government the moment that he tried to speak it out loud. This should just reveal to you how dangerous this hidden knowledge is. The world government wanted to erase this Great Kingdom so completely that even knowing its name became a death sentence. Joy Boy grew up in this advanced civilization and eventually set out to sea, becoming the very first person in history to be called a pirate. He invented piracy as a concept 900 years before Roger was even born. And much like the legendary sun god Nika spoken of in ancient tales, Joy Boy fought with a body that could stretch and contract. His powers gave him the freedom to fight however he wanted, embodying the very concept of liberation that would define his legacy for centuries. Although Joy Boy has only been shown in silhouette so far, we've learned some important details about his physical appearance. According to Emeth, who knew Joy Boy personally, he bore a strong resemblance to Monkey D. Luffy. During his conversation with the Iron Giant, Joy Boy appeared wearing a white brimmed hat resembling a straw hat, capri pants, and a cape. This description immediately draws parallels to Luffy's iconic look, and it raises some questions about the giant straw hat that Imu keeps frozen in Merijo. If Joy Boy wore a straw hat that resembled Luffy's, that frozen relic might have belonged to Joy Boy himself. As for his personality, Joy Boy possessed remarkable foresight, and he genuinely cared about his friends. He wasn't just a powerful warrior fighting for abstract ideals. Joy Boy formed deep bonds with those around him, and he planned for contingencies far beyond his own lifetime. The fact that he sealed his Haki inside Emeth specifically to protect the robot or someone dear to it in the future shows how much he thought about protecting his companions even after he was gone. Joy Boy's attire that we see during the raid on Onigashima flashback heavily matches Luffy's outfit during that same arc. The visual parallel reinforces the connection between these two characters across hundreds of years of history. Joy Boy wielded one of the most dangerous devil fruits in history, as the world government has spent years trying to hide its true nature. The fruit that Luffy ate wasn't actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it was the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, a mythical zoan that transforms the user into an incarnation of the sun god Nika. The world government renamed this fruit and reclassified it as a paramecia specifically to bury its connection to Joy Boy and Nika. They even removed it from certain versions of the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia entirely. For 800 years, they chased this fruit across the world trying to secure it, and for 800 years they failed. The five elders themselves theorized that this might be because the fruit has a will of its own, actively avoiding capture. Joy Boy didn't just eat the fruit, he awakened it. We know this because when he appears in silhouette, he has the characteristic ribbon of flaming smoke around his shoulder and torso that indicates an awakened Nika form. This awakening granted Joy Boy abilities that defy conventional physics. His rubbery body gained freedom beyond anything that a normal Paramecia could achieve, allowing him to manipulate the environment around him, turn other objects and even people into rubber temporarily, and fight in ways limited only by imagination. The awakening also produces a distinctive sound. When Luffy awakened his fruit during the battle against Kaido, Zunisha heard something it hadn't experienced in 800 years. These were the drums of liberation. It's that rhythmic heartbeat that sounds like war drums. Zunisha immediately declared that Joy Boy had returned. The drums were the same sound that Joy Boy's heart made when he fought all those centuries ago. Beyond his devil fruit, Joy Boy was one of the most powerful individuals to ever exist. He possessed the voice of all things, a rare ability that allows communication with creatures and objects that normal people cannot understand. Joy Boy used this power to communicate with the giant robot Emeth, forming a long-standing friendship. But Joy Boy's most terrifying ability was his Supreme King Haki. The giants Dory and Broggy, who have lived for over 100 years and witnessed countless powerful warriors, they stated that Joy Boy's Haki was more powerful than Shanks's. They also noted that they sensed no hostility from it, which speaks to Joy Boy's nature as a liberator rather than a conqueror, and Shanks's Haki is strong enough to make admirals hesitate. When Imu felt the burst of Joy Boy's preserved Haki all the way from Merijo during the Egghead Island arc, they were left visibly shaken and panting. The secret ruler of the world, someone who has existed for 800 years and seen everything, was physically affected by Joy Boy's Haki from that distance. Joy Boy also developed an advanced application of Supreme King Haki that nobody else has demonstrated. You could tie his Haki into a knot, preserving it for centuries to be released later. This of course was sealed within Emeth, and when the robot had finally untied the Haki knot, the resulting burst was powerful enough to knock every Marine Vice Admiral near the island unconscious and force 3 of the 5 elders back to Merijo by cancelling their Devil Fruit transformations. The 20 kingdoms that would become the world government recognized how dangerous Joy Boy was. His power was the sole reason they had to band together in the first place. No single nation could defeat him. It took an alliance of 20 kingdoms working together, likely wielding the ancient weapons to finally bring Joy Boy down. Joy Boy's long-standing companion was Zunisha, an elephant so massive that an entire civilization lives on its back. Zunisha stands over 5 kilometers tall, making it the largest character ever introduced in One Piece, and it served as Joy Boy's comrade during the Void Century. Their relationship was clearly deep because Zunisha still holds nostalgic feelings for Joy Boy after hundreds of years of wandering. But something happened. Zunisha committed a crime during the Void Century, and the punishment was severe. The elephant was sentenced to walk the seas endlessly, forbidden from taking any action unless explicitly ordered to do so. For 800 years, Zunisha has been serving this sentence, carrying the Mink tribe's homeland of Zou on its back while wandering a specific path through the New World. Miyagi, one of the Mink doctors, speculates that Zunisha isn't walking aimlessly and it may be looking for a certain location. We still don't know what crime Zunisha committed or who sentenced this punishment. Was it related to Joy Boy's failed promise? Did Zunisha do something during the Great War that required atonement? The mystery deepens when you consider that Momonosuke, a Kozuki clan descendant, is able to actually give Zunisha orders. The Kozuki family created the Poneglyphs and had deep connections to Joy Boy's era. There's clearly a link here that hasn't been fully explained yet. When Zunisha heard the drums of liberation from Luffy during the Wano arc, the elephant immediately declared that Joy Boy had returned. Zunisha compared Luffy directly to the ancient Joy Boy and affirmed that it was the boy's destiny. After centuries of waiting, Zunisha finally found someone worthy of continuing Joy Boy's legacy. Then there's the Iron Giant Emeth, who was created roughly 900 years ago, around the time of the Void Century, and despite being a machine, Emeth is fully sentient and capable of emotion. Joy Boy and Emeth developed a genuine friendship. Emeth was so loyal to Joy Boy that it intended to make him king of something, and Joy Boy trusted Emeth enough to seal his most powerful Haki inside the robot's chassis. The final meeting was incredibly emotional. Joy Boy told Emeth that something was at hand and that he intended to seal his Haki within the robot for use at a later point, specifically to protect Emeth or someone dear to it from mortal danger. Joy Boy was aware that he may not survive what was coming. During the Egghead Island arc, when Emeth finally awakened after hearing the drums of liberation, its first action was to apologize to Joy Boy for failing its original mission. Even after it realized that Luffy wasn't Joy Boy, Emeth still sided with him and fought alongside the Straw Hats against the Gorosei. Before powering down after releasing Joy Boy's sealed Haki, Emeth was seen happily reminiscing about the time Joy Boy gave him the Haki knot. More than 800 years ago, Joy Boy also made a promise to the mermaid princess of that era who held the power known as Poseidon. This power allows the holder to summon and command the Sea Kings, those godlike creatures that dwell in the deepest waters. The promise involved a colossal ship called Noah, built specifically so that the Sea Kings could pull it. The terms of this deal have never been totally revealed, but the implication is huge. Joy Boy intended to use Poseidon's power to raise Noah from the ocean floor and transport the Fishman to the surface world. This would have been the ultimate act of liberation, freeing an entire race from their underwater imprisonment and uniting them with the surface dwellers. But Joy Boy failed. For reasons we still don't understand, he couldn't fulfill his side of the agreement, and rather than leaving Fishman Island without explanation, Joy Boy did something incredible. He carved an apology into a poneglyph and left it in the sea forest. It was a personal letter saying sorry for breaking his word. Joy Boy also promised that someone would fulfill the agreement in his place. The people of Fishman Island have kept their faith for 8 centuries. They preserved Noah, they passed down the story, believing that one day someone would come to finish what Joy Boy started. The royal family of Ryugu Kingdom still holds the legend of a person who will fulfill Joy Boy's promise. During the Fishman Island arc, that promise almost broke. Luffy was asked to protect the island at any cost, even if it meant destroying Noah. Before Luffy could finish the job, Shirahoshi unknowingly summoned the Sea Kings using her Poseidon powers, and they stopped Noah's fall. The Sea Kings then took the damaged ship to the sea forest in order to be repaired before the promised time arrives. 900 years ago, Joy Boy and his allies from the Great Kingdom faced off against an alliance of 20 kingdoms who would later become the world government. This was a battle for the very nature of the world. The alliance was formed specifically because Joy Boy was too powerful to defeat individually. Vegapunk's research confirmed that the ancient weapons were used during this war, and the consequences were catastrophic. The global sea levels rose by 200 meters, the continents that existed 1,000 years ago sunk into the depths, and the islands that we know of today are merely the mountaintops of those ancient landmasses. Vegapunk accounted for every natural factor and concluded that this couldn't have been a natural disaster. A single century wouldn't have been nearly enough time for the world to change so drastically on its own. This was a deliberate act of man-made destruction on a planetary scale. Joy Boy was eventually defeated, and with his fall, the Great Kingdom ceased to exist. The Void Century ended and the world government rose to power. But here's what makes this even more complicated. Joy Boy apparently attempted to preserve the ancient weapons for future generations to inherit. We don't know why he would do this, because if the weapons caused such devastation, then what's the point in saving them? Did Joy Boy believe that they would be needed again? Did he know something about the future that required these weapons to still exist? The world government's response to their victory was to erase everything. They destroyed all records of the Void Century, and they killed anyone who researched into the Poneglyphs. They hunted down the scattered remnants of the Great Kingdom's knowledge, making sure that nobody survives with this information. The truth about Joy Boy became so dangerous that entire islands like Ohara were destroyed just for studying it. Among the 20 royals who allied against the Great Kingdom, there was Nefertari Lily. She was queen of Arabasta during the Void Century. After the collapse of the Great Kingdom, most of the 20 rulers relocated to Merijo, with their descendants becoming the world nobles. But Lily made a different choice. She opted to return home to Arabasta instead and didn't leave the symbolic weapon at the empty throne like the others did. However, Lily disappeared before she could make it back to Arabasta. Records of her existence were wiped out, and her younger brother took the throne in her place. The only proof that she ever existed is a letter that she left behind. What makes Lily significant to Joy Boy's story is that Imu has particular interest in her due to a mistake that she made. That mistake led to the poneglyphs spreading across the world. Without Lily's error, the indestructible stone tablets containing Joy Boy's messages and the true history might never have reached the corners of the world where they would eventually be found. Her mistake preserved Joy Boy's legacy against the world government's attempts to erase it. Emu also has particular interest in Lily's descendant Nefertari Vivi. The will of D apparently has something to do with the Great Kingdom, though the details remain unclear. Lily's full name was Nefertari D. Lily, making her a carrier of that mysterious initial, just like Luffy, Roger, and the others. At some point before his defeat, Joy Boy reached an island at the very end of the Grand Line and left behind something of unimaginable value. This treasure would eventually become known to the world as the One Piece, though Joy Boy never called it that himself. This treasure has sat undiscovered for almost a millennia. The island was so difficult to reach that nobody could find it using conventional navigation. Log poses are unable to locate it. The magnetic paths all end at the preceding Lodester Island. The only way to find this final island is by gathering all 4 road poneglyphs, which reveal 4 points on a map. When aligned, these points create an X marking the true location. When Goldie Roger and his crew finally reached the island 25 years before the current timeline, they became the first people since the Void Century to stand where Joy Boy once stood. They discovered Joy Boy's treasure and learned the complete truth about the Void Century, the ancient weapons, the meaning of the D initial, and Joy Boy's entire story. After learning all of this, they laughed. Roger found the whole thing so hilarious that he named the island Laughtail on the spot. Roger even said that he wished he could have lived in Joy Boy's era, showing just how much respect he developed for this ancient figure. But Roger also realized something important. He was too early. The time wasn't right. The world needed someone else, someone whose arrival would come later. So Roger left the treasure exactly where he found it. He didn't claim the One Piece for himself, he waited for the right person to come along. According to Vegapunk, the fate of the world will be decided by whoever claims the One Piece. He believes the ones closest to the truth are those who refuse to buckle under any suppression, and he also warned that the person who finds it might not be the one Joy Boy was hoping for. Throughout One Piece, there are repeated references to an appointed time that hasn't yet arrived. Noah has been waiting at the bottom of the seafloor for this appointed time. When the Roger pirates reached Laughtail, they believed they got there too early. During the God Valley incident, when Emu transformed Rox D Xebec into a demon, Eris mentioned that it must have been still too early. All of these references point to a specific moment in history that Joy Boy was preparing for. Everything that he left behind at Laughtail and all of the promises that he made, they were designed to be fulfilled at this appointed time. Roger understood this, which is why he didn't try to complete Joy Boy's mission himself. He knew the world wasn't ready yet. The Sea Kings spoke of someone being born who would lead them in 25 years alongside a new Poseidon. That time frame aligns with the current storyline. Shirahoshi is the new Poseidon. Luffy has awakened Joy Boy's fruit. The appointed time that Joy Boy foresaw 900 years ago appears to be now. Whitebeard mentioned before his death that when the One Piece is found, a great battle will engulf the entire world. The world will be shaken to its core. This unspeakable war that Whitebeard predicted is likely what Joy Boy was preparing everyone for. The appointed time is about confronting whatever threat Joy Boy knew was coming. Joy Boy left behind a way to find his treasure and a record of what really happened during the Void Century. The poneglyphs that have been scattered across the world contain messages about the true history, the locations of the ancient weapons, and the path to Laughtail. The Kozuki family of Wano created these indestructible stone tablets, suggesting a deep connection between Wano and Joy Boy's Great Kingdom. One poneglyph contains Joy Boy's apology to Fishman Island. Others describe the whereabouts of Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. The road poneglyphs mark the path to Laughtail. Together they form what scholars call the Rio poneglyph, a complete record of everything the world government tried to erase. Joy Boy's legacy continued through prophecy and through those who witnessed the Void Century firsthand. Kozuki Toki was actually born during the Void Century itself and used her Toki Toki no Mi to travel through time specifically to search for the day of Joy Boy's return. She jumped centuries into the future looking for the moment when Joy Boy would come back. The Sea Kings spoke of someone being born who would lead them in 25 years alongside a new Poseidon. Kozuki Oden learned at Laughtail that Wano's borders needed to be opened before Joy Boy returned, and he dedicated the rest of his life to making that happen. The prophecy stated that Joy Boy would return roughly 800 years after the Void Century. Everyone who learned the truth began preparing for this moment. Oden tried to open Wano, Toki jumped through time to witness it, Zunisha wandered the seas waiting for the drums to sound again. Even Kaido, who learned about Joy Boy from King, believed that Joy Boy would be someone who would defeat him in battle. One of the most intriguing revelations about Joy Boy comes from an unexpected source. This is Rox D. Xebec. During the God Valley incident, when Rox confronted Imu, he asked the secret ruler an important question. Which person did Imu fear more, Davy D. Jones or Joy Boy? This question is massive for several reasons. It confirms that Rox knew about Joy Boy, the Void Century, and the true history, even though he never reached Laugh Tale himself. He learned about Joy Boy's existence before his rival Roger did. Second, it places Davy D. Jones on the same level of importance as Joy Boy. These were major players in whatever conflict ended up shaping the One Piece world. Davy D. Jones, according to his descendant Rox, was once the king of the world. Imu furiously denied this claim, insisting Jones was never king even for a moment, but Imu's reaction proves that Rox struck a nerve. Whatever happened between Imu and Davy Jones all those years ago is personal enough that just the name makes Imu lose composure. Among the Davy family descendants, there is talk of an ancient promise that should be fulfilled. This promise enraged Imu when Xebec mentioned it. The Davy family's promise and Joy Boy's unfulfilled promise with Fishman Island may be connected. Both involve something left undone during the Void Century that future generations are expected to complete. Currently, the only known survivor of the Davy bloodline is Marshall D. Teach, Blackbeard himself. If Blackbeard inherits both his father Rox's dream of ruling the world and the ancient Davy family promise, then he represents a direct continuation of whatever Davy D. Jones started centuries ago. The parallel between Joy Boy's legacy through Luffy and Davy Jones' legacy through Blackbeard sets up an inevitable confrontation between these two characters. Earlier I mentioned a giant straw hat. Within a frozen cellar deep within Marijo, Imu keeps one of the most mysterious objects in the series, a massive straw hat. It's far too large for any normal human to wear. This relic is stored in the most sacred and secret location in the entire world government. Given what we know about Joy Boy's appearance, this hat may have belonged to him. Emeth confirmed that Joy Boy wore a wide-brimmed hat resembling a straw hat and that he bore a strong resemblance to Luffy. The frozen giant straw hat could be the original, the one Joy Boy wore during the Void Century. If that's true, then the smaller straw hat that passed from Roger to Shanks to Luffy carries even more significance. It might be a replica or a symbol meant to identify Joy Boy's successor. The world government keeping Joy Boy's original hat frozen in their most protected vault suggests that they understand its importance and they fear what it represents. When Luffy was knocked unconscious by Kaido on the Skull Dome rooftop during the raid on Onigashima, something crazy happened. His heartbeat stopped, then it started again with a completely different rhythm. The drums of liberation began to sound for the first time in 800 years. Zunisha heard it and immediately declared that Joy Boy returned. Luffy rose with a wild grin as his devil fruit awakened for the first time, transforming into what he calls Gear 5. His hair and clothes turned white, his eyes gained ringed pupils, white clouds of steam formed around his neck, and he became a living image of the sun god Nika, radiating joy and laughter even in the middle of a deadly battle. Luffy truly gained freedom here. His rubbery body now operates on cartoon physics, limited only by imagination. He can manipulate the environment around him, turn other objects and people into rubber, and fight in ways that defy all logic. When Kaido tried to smash him, Luffy's body just squished like putty and it bounced back. When lightning struck, Luffy grabbed it and threw it back. The more ridiculous the attack, the more effective it becomes. Now this transformation isn't just physical. When Luffy enters Gear 5, he exudes joy. He laughs uncontrollably. He finds everything hilarious even when the situation is serious. This mirrors the tales of Sun God Nika, who was said to always be smiling, always dancing, always bringing laughter to those in bondage. Luffy thus becomes the embodiment of of liberation itself. When Kaido was defeated by Luffy, he recalled his belief that Joy Boy would be the one to defeat him. In his final moments, he recognized that Luffy was the Joy Boy he had been waiting for. The prophecy was fulfilled. The one who inherited Joy Boy's will had finally arrived. After the fight, Luffy asked Momonosuke not to name him as the one who defeated Kaido, so the Shogun used the name Joy Boy instead in the heroic recounting of the raid's events. Joy Boy became a legendary figure in Wano, his name spoken openly for the first time in 800 years. Now, the return of Joy Boy is so dangerous to the power structure of the world government. Imu, the secret ruler of the world who sits on the empty throne, fears Joy Boy specifically because of his past association with the original. When the CP0 agent God Nika sent a photograph of Luffy's awakened form to the world government, the Gorosei were horrified. They didn't want the image going public. Morgans used it for Luffy's wanted poster anyway, but the government's reaction tells you how seriously they take the Nika imagery. They've spent 800 years hiding the true nature of this devil fruit. Having it splashed across wanted posters undermines centuries of their propaganda. They ordered CP0 to interfere in Luffy's fight with Kaido in order to stop the awakening from happening. They would rather anger an emperor than allow Joy Boy to return. Imu has used the term Joy Boy to refer to Luffy directly, chastising Saturn for allowing Joy Boy to escape from Egghead and killing Saturn as punishment for this failure. The connection between Luffy and Joy Boy isn't just spiritual or thematic in their eyes. To the world government, Luffy is Joy Boy, and the prophecy is beginning to be fulfilled. The threat that they have been dreading for all these years is now actively working against them. Joy Boy and the sun god Nika are intrinsically linked, but the exact nature of their relationship is still a mystery. Nika was a legendary figure worshipped as a god of liberation. According to Who's Who, stories about Nika were passed among prisoners and slaves. These were tales of a warrior who would free them from bondage. The world government considered these stories dangerous that merely speaking about Nika could get you killed. Nika was described as always smiling, always bringing laughter, fighting with powers that seemed almost cartoonish. This matches Joy Boy's appearance and abilities perfectly. When Joy Boy awakened the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, he became an incarnation of this sun god. His rubbery body, his joyful demeanor, his liberating presence, all of it embodies what Nika represented. The sun pirates formed by former slaves wore the mark of the sun to cover their slave brands and proclaim their freedom. The Shandians worshipped a sun god. The giants have their own sun god traditions. Multiple oppressed peoples across the world independently developed beliefs centered on a solar liberator, a figure that would bring a new dawn upon the world. Joy Boy may have been the first person to embody Nika's powers, but the legend existed before him. The Hito Hito no Mi model Nika grants the ability to become Nika, suggesting that Nika was a pre-existing concept that the fruit channels. Whether if Nika was a real person who lived before Joy Boy, a spiritual entity, or something else entirely remains a mystery. What's clear is that Joy Boy's awakening of this fruit made him the warrior of liberation, and now Luffy carries this very title. Recently, we've seen evidence that Joy Boy's legend extends beyond just the Poneglyphs. A massive mural was carved into the fossilized bark of the treasure tree Adam on Elbaf. This was sometime during the Void Century. This mural depicts multiple races working together, including what appears to be a robot resembling Emeth standing behind a figure that looks like Nika. The main theory among the giants is that this mural was carved by fantasizing children at the time, partly because it shows cultural exchanges between races when the giants actually have no historical record of such cooperation happening. But the mural appears to visually depict text from the Harley, which records ancient history of two worlds that have passed and one yet to occur. This suggests Joy Boy's influence extended to Elbaf and that the giants knew about him during the Void Century. We know that Rox believed that he and King Harold together could raise the Galila, those legendary giant warrior shipwrights frozen in ice for centuries. If the ancient giants were allies of Joy Boy, the world government's desperation to control Elbaf makes more sense. This now brings us to what Joy Boy exactly left behind. We know that it made Roger laugh hysterically, and we know that it contains the truth about the Void Century, with it also having a supposed unimaginable value. Even with all of this, we don't know what it actually is. Big Mom once had an internal monologue suggesting that some of the One Piece might be located in Wano. This has never been elaborated upon, but Wano's deep connection to Joy Boy's era makes it plausible. Pluton, one of the ancient weapons, is hidden beneath Wano. The Kozuki family created the Poneglyphs. Wano was once connected to the rest of the world before isolating itself behind massive walls. Something crucial happened there during the Void Century. The name One Piece itself came from the world at large, not from Joy Boy or Roger. The original Japanese text includes a phrase that can be read as the Great Hitotsunagi Treasure, with multiple possible interpretations. It could mean in one piece, referring to a unified treasure. It could mean the rope linking all men, suggesting something that connects people. It could also mean one sea at peace, implying a transformed world. Roger acknowledged this name as something people had chosen, but didn't use it during his famous last words. He simply mentioned his treasure left at that place. The mystery of what Joy Boy actually left behind continues to drive the entire story of One Piece forward. And yeah, this is pretty much everything that we have on Joy Boy as of making this video. I want to now hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts about Joy Boy and his connection to Luffy? Do you think that the One Piece will reveal more about his true history? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about the character of Joy Boy, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next One Piece video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.